Welcome into an all-new episode of Her Playbook. The Her Playbook podcast is brought to you by Kendra Scott. Game day just got personal. Find your winning look at Kendra Scott, where team spirit meets personal style. Shop jewelry, accessories, and more at your New York area Kendra Scott store or online at kendrascott.com. Welcome into this episode of Her Playbook. I'm Madelyn Burke, joined by lead NFL insider for The Athletic, Dianna Russini. Dianna, thanks for taking the time.
It is great to be here. It's the perfect time of year because it's a little bit of calm before the storm. So it's fun to just be here, be at the Giants facility, and of course seeing you. I know it's been a minute. It's usually regular season I see you. So it's nice to see you in February here.
It's so great to see you in February. And like, who are we kidding? The storm of the NFL. There's always a slight chance of precipitation. There's always something going on in this league, you know? And I think you of all people would know that as an NFL insider. You have worked your way to the top of the game, to being one of the most respected voices in this league. But before we start there, I want to go back to the origin. At what point in your life did you say, okay, this is a career path I want to follow? This is something I want to get into journalism, into that field.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for those kind words. It probably started when I was young, 5, 6. My parents tell a story that I used to hear the fire trucks and run outside with my coloring book and draw whatever it is that I imagined and go back in the house and tell them the story that I would just make up because I obviously didn't see the fire.
As you can see with my OTS that I've drawn with crayons.
Like, this is how the fire started. So they used to put them on the refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
And they said that I just was always so curious. And I think they guided me in that direction as I got older to lean into that. Mm-hmm. And I was an athlete in high school, and sports was just my personality. That's all I knew. Yeah. It was my identity, truly. And but I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go into sports originally. I had this news bug. Yeah. I love the idea of being a general assignment reporter. My dream was to work at Eyewitness News in New York City. And I went down that path, and I got to New York, actually, and it was great. And it taught me a lot of the things that I now apply to sports, but I wound up making a switch because I realized that I think news comes with a very big responsibility, but I didn't find my personality to ever really be authentic when I was reporting the news. Yeah. I was always pretending to be a news reporter, I felt like. Yeah. My grandmother was the one who actually picked up on that. She's like, I just don't see my granddaughter on TV. That's not her. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm on at 5, 6, and 11. And she's like, yeah, but I see you, but that's not you. Yeah. And Bruce Beck, actually at Channel 4 in New York, was the one who gave me the idea. He said, I think you need to get into sports. You've got something about you that I think will fit. And he was right.
Bruce is such a sweetheart. One of the legends of this market and of this industry. Yeah.
And he did something that's not very common. So Shea Stadium was closing at the time. This tells you how long ago it was. And I was working a weekend shift, and he said, why don't you do your news shift and then come out to Shea Stadium? Yeah. And let's do a side-by-side live shot so you can feel what it's like to be a sports reporter. Well, like they took me live on Channel 4 in that moment, and being around the fans. And it was such a sad story, actually, because all these Mets fans were so sad that Shea was closing. Yeah. But I got the bug. I remember finishing that live shot with Bruce going, this is what I want to do. Yeah. This is awesome. So,
well, and that's such a unique experience for so many ways, but in the fact that Bruce Beck, somebody who is, well established in his career and all that, not only has the thought to say, let me involve you, but also the confidence to say, hey, I'm going to bring you into my space and trust you here too, because it is such a competitive industry, and there are a lot of people who might not be as welcoming in that regard, but Bruce has always been one of the kinds, as many people are. How did that kind of mentorship help you along the way?
Well, he just showed so much confidence in my ability. He was actually really straightforward with me about it, too. He said, there are not a lot of women in sports. Yeah. I think you could get to the top fast if you did this the right way. And he suggested I leave New York. He's like, you should leave New York and learn from the ground up on how to be a sports broadcaster. And so I moved to Seattle, which was the furthest I'd ever been from New Jersey, where I grew up. And I remember my family being like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like I worked at this small little radio station, which I'm sure right now is on cloud 9 with the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. And I went on their air and was pretty awful and bad. And I had no knowledge. And the only reason why they hired me was because I had such a strong news background at the time. I'd done so much TV and I was 24, 25, but I put in so much time through internships and I had the experience from that standpoint, but I just didn't have the sports knowledge. And somebody at KJR Radio pulled me aside and was like, you're never going to make it if you don't put in the work. Like, you're not going to be able to get by just learning on the job or thinking that a personality is going to make up for your lack of knowledge. Like, you have to be the smartest one in the room.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out, actually. And I wasn't sure if I could do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of reset a little bit and started to really focus. I started to study more. I started asking a lot more questions. I was pretty vulnerable, actually, because I had to admit to people that I had this job, but I wasn't very good at it yet, and I didn't know much. And so I slowly climbed back up on my feet, so to speak, in the sports space. And I got a couple opportunities after that, and it all kind of took off.
It can be kind of overwhelming, though, to be in that space, right? I'm in this job, but I don't quite know what I want to know yet.
And nobody wanted me there.
Right.
I was this New Yorker in their mind.
Yeah.
They used to make fun of the way I spoke. They used to have a thing at the start of the show where it was me just saying my name and they would laugh because my accent was so thick back then. And they gave me like ridiculous nicknames. Like, I was so not qualified to be around the men in that building that worked really hard to be where they were at and were very good at what they do, which it's so rewarding when they ask me to come on their show now, by the way.
Right.
Like, I enjoy it so much. And I give it back now. Now I'm like, remember when you guys made fun of me?
You should say your name with a thick accent on there.
They play the drop before I come on every time.
So
they
good.
do. They have not forgotten, unfortunately. But it really took a lot of people believing in me for this to work out. And that was something I didn't realize in the moment. I used to always talk about my journey and point to the hard work and the focus and the sacrifice. And now that I'm older and I've been doing it long enough and I can reflect on it, I realize how many people lifted me up and how many people took a chance on me and stuck their necks out for me. I'd say my biggest break came when I was in Seattle and I was trying to get out of there because I just missed home and I wanted to get back east. And I used to have this old boyfriend named Mike. And when I'm sad, I like to go real low. And I was like, I'm going to find old emails from him because, you know, we used to be so in love. So I put in my search in my email, Mike. And so I saw all these emails. And then there was this one from a guy named Mike St. Peter. I'm like, who's that? Like, who did I write to? Who's this person? So I opened it up and I was probably 18 years old when I wrote that email originally. And I said, hi, my name is Dianna Russini. I really want to be a news anchor. Could I come up to meet your news anchors in West Hartford, Connecticut? Mm-hmm. And he wrote back that year, no.
Just no.
You're in college. No. So I thought it would be funny to reply to that email when I was now, 26, 27. Hi, I know you said no 10 years ago, but I'm now a reporter. Mm-hmm. By any chance, do you have any openings for any sports anchors? And he wrote right back, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, nothing. He said, come drive up to West Hartford. But here's the deal. I will interview you as our weekend sports anchor, but you have to do 3 days a week in news. So be a news reporter during the week, which I really didn't want to do though, because I'm like, I'm done with that. I've already done it. So I went up, I interviewed with him, and he's like, look, I'm going to guess that you can figure this out on the weekends. I just need you to be like one of my lead news people. I said, I'll do it. So he gave me this absolutely incredible opportunity. And I covered news stories that will forever be the most significant stories I've ever covered, from Sandy Hook Elementary to the Boston Marathon bombing to the Hurricane Sandy, all of that in the same year.
Wow.
And if anything solidified that I wanted to do sports, it was covering all of that.
Yeah.
And so I got really lucky that on the weekend, doing sports. A news director from Washington, D.C. happened to be driving through Connecticut and got tired, got a hotel room, saw me on TV, called the next Monday and said, can we bring her down to Washington? And then I had the same thing happen to me in Washington where I was on TV and an executive at ESPN was visiting his mother and saw me, and they hired me to be an anchor on SportsCenter.
Wild.
It's just like I mentioned to you, so many people opened up doors for me.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of luck, but it also was work. And I was willing to do things to really just put myself out there and get an opportunity.
Well, and luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? I mean, yes, it was lucky that, executive was in a hotel room and saw you, but it was also fortunate that you were prepared and sharp. And I mean, that could have been a day that you maybe didn't have your best show or didn't have your best.
I remember my highlight was the UConn women.
Yeah.
And in Connecticut, they rule all. Like they're a lead sports story. And I had really improved on my highlights and I nailed it. And I remember the sports cast that he saw. So he caught me on a really good day. But you're right. Like it could have been any other day when I, messed up a name or did something that I wasn't as comfortable doing at the time. But I would give the crew at NBC Connecticut, the ones that worked teleprompter and the cameras and the people behind the scenes, gift cards if they would stay after the show to have me do the show again, to keep practicing because I was so bad on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
I can't read. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just was terrible at it. And so they would do it, and they were so nice. They would sit there for another half an hour after their shifts just to help me get better at reading a teleprompter. It was really cool.
That is great. And that's fortunate, again, to have so many people around that are so helpful and all that. And you had so many, moments where somebody else elevated you.
Yes.
Was there ever a moment that you doubted yourself? Or did that ever waver in you? Or were you very,
I was a wreck. I was a wreck for most of my career. It really only started to sink in that I can do this job at a high level a few years ago. I was always worried that I wasn't savvy enough, smart enough, aggressive enough. I used to be so uncomfortable talking to players, talking to coaches. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to ask about. I was worried what they were thinking of me, of this girl must not understand enough about football. Or I was always so worried about what everyone else thought about me rather than not caring about it. And it wasn't until I started to realize that it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. And if you just carry yourself with respect and confidence and if you do the work and you know what you're doing, people are drawn to you. People want to engage because you know what you're doing.
Right.
So I doubted myself plenty. I was on the SportsCenter set. I did not know golf very well. I did not know tennis very well. And I was doing these highlights and just literally sitting at this, like on the edge going, I just got to get through this. And again, another story where a producer who's actually one of the lead producers at ESPN right now was the only one to have the guts to call me in his office and say, you stink at highlights for golf and tennis. But you are very good when you do football. You don't even look at the highlight sheets. Yeah. You just talk. You should focus on football. But at the time, I'm like, you don't walk away from SportsCenter.
Right.
Like, you're SportsCenter anchor. There's not a lot of you out there.
Yeah.
And I said, so how do you think this works? He's like, I think you just go full-time football. You just go into the thing that you love the most because your joy shows.
Yeah.
And so I did it. And it was the best. It was like the best critical advice, yet guidance, because I don't know where I'd be right now if he never said that to me.
Yeah.
To be able to have that vision for me and guide me that way.
Right. And somebody who actually sees you and is honest enough to tell you, hey, this is where your strength is, because some of us miss those moments and we're like, oh, it takes a while to discover what our passion is or what our joys are.
Yeah, it is. And so to have somebody say you physically look different when you talk about football.
Just like how your grandmother was like, you physically look different when you're on the news. Who is this person?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So the element that I brought to football that I really took from my news days was the news element, was the news part of it.
Right, because it is still telling a story and, what, when, where, how, all that, but in a different circumstance.
So when I worked at Channel 4 in New York, I was on the crime beat. So I was usually the lead or the second story, at least, for the 5, 6, and 11. And it's always a murder, a fire, something awful. But I realized pretty quickly that if you can build some relationships with the police on the ground and even firefighters on the ground, you can get information faster than having to wait for it to be formally released through their communication directors.
Right.
So I learned how to navigate that space and through relationships in the news space when I was a general assignment reporter.
Yeah.
So I really just leaned back into that when I started to cover football full time of, wait, news can separate you.
Right.
It is the easiest and fastest way to build credibility. And I knew I was so behind the other reporters at the time covering the NFL that I had to catch up. And the only way to catch up was to break stories. And that's essentially how I came to doing this full time.
Yeah. Now, one of the defining memories that I have of you in your time as an ESPN NFL reporter was relatively recently, within the last few years. You were pregnant on the job. And first of all, like Dianna running around, whether she's pregnant or not, is like a force, and in the best possible way. You covered an entire NFL season, very pregnant. And if anyone saw you in life, they would know. But if anybody watched you on TV, it was like top secret. You were always cut here. And then like the last game of the season, the cameraman pans out and it's like, by the way.
I was like, by the way, I got a little guy in my belly. I did it twice, actually, which is crazy.
But like, what was that experience like? I mean, people talk about, as a woman in sports, what that must be like. But as a woman and a mother in sports and doing all of this while literally pregnant and keeping it a little secretive.
Well, I was really fortunate. I had great pregnancies.
Yeah.
I had both my boys back to back. So they're 13, 14 months apart. But doing the job to me was always the priority over what I thought was perhaps a distraction. I thought showing my belly would distract from the work I was doing.
I get
because
that.
Nothing changed for me from the reporting, perspective. I was still going at it and attacking it just as aggressively. But I just wanted the viewer at home to keep listening to me as the reporter giving the information versus me going, whoa, that's a big belly. Especially because I got lucky too. I didn't really get that fat in the face. It was just, I was just a big ball. So I had the same photographers and it was actually their suggestion on my last day. It was my last day of working. And they said, today you're gonna tell the world. And I was like, I don't know. They're like, we're gonna just slowly pan out. And nobody at ESPN knew except my boss. The set on the Sunday NFL Countdown show, all those guys who have known and was so close to, I just never told anyone. And their reaction to me still like gives me goosebumps because they were so genuinely happy and surprised that I was out there in the field in September and hot and like big. And I think I had Mikey like a week later.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you remember that. And that was, a highlight of my career. I don't think I've ever been happier in my life, knowing that I was about to be a mom, working at a place that I could only dream of working, and doing it all at MetLife Stadium, which is like my home turf. It's like it was really one of the best times.
Yeah, because I think too, it's also a testament to just what an incredible, this is a hard job to do, covering the NFL on a full-time basis and breaking news and maintaining relationships and all that. And it's also not easy to be pregnant and doing both of those things at the same time.
Something I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
How incredible the league reacted to my pregnancy.
Yeah.
I had more players and agents and coaches coming up to me, congratulating me, getting to know me a little bit more.
Yeah.
There are people that I've become friends with that I did not even talk to before I had a baby in my belly. And there's like a parenthood out there that you feel part of and everyone can relate. And that helped me as a journalist. It really did. I am the best version of me as a reporter covering the league now than any other time, because I think just being a mom has helped me just navigate the space better.
Yeah.
I also think I care less, which I know sounds callous, but when you have two little humans waiting for you at home and their lives are the most important thing to you, you realize, maybe not getting the story first or, not getting the interview that you really wanted to get is, yes, it's important, but I don't dwell on it as much as I used to. And it's made me better.
The priorities shift and the levity of it.
Everyone go out there and have a baby. No, just kidding. Don't do it. Wait. I am so stressed out.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, deep breaths.
It's so much work. They are having children is so much harder than being an insider. It's not even close. And then doing it together, I have endless amounts of stories. I'm going to write a book one day of my children's behavior affecting my ability to do my job, whether it's them crying or Venmoing or Apple requesting money from a GM. Like, they have done all of this.
My gosh.
They have less voicemails on agents just yelling, like not knowing because they pick up my phone.
Oh my gosh.
But again, like I've been
conversation starter.
I've been in crazy breaking news situations with, like, I had this situation maybe a month ago with an agent who was screaming at me about a story I wrote, and he heard Mikey in the background and immediately changed his tenor with me and was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were home with the boys. Why don't you just call me later? And I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah. Start bringing the boys around more. Exactly. Use them as a prop to get people to be nicer to me. But yeah, no, it's all been, one of the things that I had to decide at ESPN was how much maternity leave I was going to take.
Sure.
Because I think in TV, women are really frightened to step away because there's always someone else. And I was one of the first, or we'll just call it a very few women that took their full maternity leave. Mm-hmm. And I was so proud of that because I refused to believe that that the time I missed was going to be worth anything else than just being with my children. Yeah. And I remember my mom saying to me, which it's so harsh, but she was right. She's like, if you're going to get replaced while you're on maternity leave, then you probably were never really that good anyway.
But also that part. Like, it's like a harsh way of saying it, but kind of like
you probably should be doing something else then. Yeah. If 3 months away from the job is going to have people in powerful positions go, oh, you know what? She actually wasn't that good. This one's... So fortunately, ESPN was incredible and welcomed me with open arms. Really actually pushed me to take more time. They were like, please go. And I have zero regrets of taking it. Like, if anything, that I am so proud to say I took maternity leave twice during football season.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is incredible and an accomplishment. And you've spoken about how much ESPN at the time was such a dream job and a pivotal moment in your career as a broadcaster, going from SportsCenter to NFL centric, being an insider. As much of a accomplishment as it was to arrive at ESPN, how challenging was it to make the decision to leave and go and move forward to The Athletic?
I apparently don't like calm in my life ever. Like, the second I have peace, I have to shake it up. It's like, as soon as I found my footing at ESPN, I got married and then I had kids and we bought a beautiful home in New Jersey. We had so much going on. And then I was like, you know what? I want to switch. I want to go somewhere else. It was the hardest decision of my life to leave ESPN. That is, like, I can say that unequivocally, because I loved working there so much and I had so many friends and it was just home to me. I was good on camera because I was comfortable with the people. It really had nothing to do with my experience or time. I just loved being around everybody and they gave me so much opportunity. But The Athletic had this belief in me that I had never received before. Mm-hmm. Nobody had ever said.
Which that's saying a lot, considering I've heard so many people in this conversation alone who have believed in you at such a high level. So that setting a new bar is a big one.
To this day, they treat me so well and believe in my abilities more than I even believe in myself. Yeah. And when I spoke with them for the first time, I was blown away by their ideas and just the responsibility that they wanted to put on me to essentially be their newsbreaker and be a gigantic part of their coverage.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the hard part was going from TV, a place where I would just stand in front of a camera and do what I knew, and it was like breathing for me at the time, to becoming a writer.
Right. And writing at a volume too, with regularity.
So I threw up for about 2 weeks. I'm not kidding.
You're like, am I pregnant again?
It was actually a paralyzing moment in my life. And even my very good friends to this day don't understand what happened to me. They're like, what was that? And I've kind of taken a deep dive on it myself now that things are great. I think I was a little bit of, I was afraid I couldn't do it. And I didn't want to disappoint The Athletic. Mm-hmm. And I was afraid what everybody would think if I failed at it.
Yeah.
Because I knew they were taking a gamble on me. And once I realized that they hired me for my skills, and it always goes back to the work you put into it. And it's the tale as old as time, right? Mm-hmm. You do all the practice, you do all the work so you can perform well when the lights are on. Mm-hmm. If you actually do the work, it's easy to perform, right? Because you have all that preparation. So once I realized The Athletic hired me for me, then I let go, and I was like, wait, I could do this. Yeah. And I remember writing my first column, and it wasn't very good, but they wanted the information. They didn't care about the style.
Yeah.
And now, 3 years later, I love writing. I write a column every Saturday. I write during the week too. At times, I do a lot of deep dives on different football stories, whether it's stuff going on in different franchises or specific to certain players. And it's now part of what I do. And I'm probably the proudest of that in my life now over anything I did in TV, just because I was so scared of it.
Yeah. Well, and reaching something that feels scary is also just a sure sign of growth and evolution, which is also important for us to do in careers and life and all of that kind of stuff.
But it's hard.
And it's hard.
I think that's
which is what makes it special too.
That is what made it so great. But to go back to those 2 weeks where I was a zombie, mm-hmm. and I was so scared, like I never want to go back there. But at the same time, the belief and confidence I have in my ability now is what it is, because I was at such a low point. I actually have a note in my kitchen that we framed. It was the day I took the job at The Athletic, and I wrote, "Today, your life is going to change forever," because I was going to make the decision that day, and I did.
Yeah.
And we framed it, and my really good friend Jeff Darlington was FaceTiming me recently, and he's like, "What is that behind you?" I said, "Oh, that was the note I wrote myself." My husband and I were talking in the morning. We wanted to remember the moment, the feeling we had of like, I was going to make a big decision on my life. And he's like, "What does it say?" I said, "Today, your life is going to change forever." He goes, "No, it's not. That was such a bad message to yourself. No wonder why you were paralyzed. Your life wasn't going to change. They hired you to be you." And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right.
Wow.
So I kept the note there because now it's a reminder of it's never that hard, and believe in who you are, believe in what you can provide.
Yeah.
Because if people are hiring you, they're seeing, maybe the Athletic was seeing something Mike McQuaid at ESPN saw too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it just takes that to get your butt in gear.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've gotten to a point too where, when you speak, people listen and sometimes build an infographic about it. And they're like, according to Dianna Russini, you've become one of the most respected voices in football, covering the league, breaking myriad stories. What's the biggest challenge in that space? I think, a lot of people think, oh, you're constantly tied to your phone. You must be, having to keep up with so much. That must be an outside perspective. But from your perspective of somebody who does this job, what's a big misconception about it?
Well, I think the internet is really hard mm-hmm. on newsbreakers because there's an audience out there that wants you to be wrong.
Right.
They live for it. They want to find ways to poke holes in your reporting. A lot of stories take time to develop as well. And I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine. A lot of the ones I've been working on in the last 6 months are examples of that, where the fan may not get it right now, mm-hmm. but they'll say in mm-hmm. a few months it'll pan out and you'll go, oh, yeah. But nobody tends to remember that. Right. They just remember the in the moment news cycle. I think the other hard part about this is the way people aggregate you. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be a challenge. And I have found getting off social media has helped with a lot of the reporting I'm doing, because otherwise it gets very frustrating. It's almost just, you get stuck in this like pool of pollution.
Well, what do you mean? Because it's hard to get off social media when it is such a vehicle for your stories. You have to be on it.
I literally have to be on Twitter all the time to break stories.
Yeah.
And to promote my stories that I'm working on.
Yeah.
You know, I have learned that the truth prevails. And the people that I care about in terms of their opinion of me are in the league.
Yeah.
And I often wish I could share with the audience, with our readers, how many people in football will text to be like, oh, you know that. Oh, you're right. Or you called that, or whatever it is. And so as long as I feel that I have the credibility and the respect within league circles, that's all I really care about now at this point. And it's at a high because you have to get it right. You have to be right to do this. And again, with help I've had over the years, I have tons of sources in football who help me, just to help me. Like it is incredible that there are people out there that do that, but it's part of the industry, and I'm very lucky to have them.
Well, and you know, the priority of being right, being first, those are things to balance, but also the priority of, okay, I'm right, I could be first, but is this story not just what people are ready to hear, but is this important to be told? How will this affect the person who's, you know, I'm breaking this story? Or has there ever been that conflict with you of like, should I put this out there?
It's the hardest thing I do.
Yeah.
It is. I have run into this probably 6 times in the last month where a player shares information with me and I can tell they're either emotional in the moment or they're confused or they don't have the right people around them and they want to put something out there through me. And I have to decide almost as a guide, is this smart for you to put out publicly right now as a professional? And then I get stuck in this weird space because I'm a journalist. And this person is telling me, because I am a journalist, they know who I am, they know what I am and what I do for a living. And my editor will say, as a kind of jokingly, like, they told you, go, run with it. Like, that's a huge story. That's a scoop, you know? And I hold back a lot because in my mind, it's a long game. And I cherish the relationships I have in football, and I miss a lot of stories because I stand down on things. And I've had the opposite recently too, where I did go with something that an agent really did not want me to run with. And he had his own reasons that I didn't really believe were that genuine, but I went with it and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. But it was hard in the moment when you have this pressure of people saying, like, if you put this out, you're going to destroy someone's life. You're going to make this person look bad. You're going to make this organization crumble. Like, just the most dramatic things are said to you. And, you know,
if it's true, though,
I always have to remember.
Yeah.
I didn't choose to do that.
Right.
You chose to do that. Right. Like, that's how I usually gauge it of, I didn't make that decision. You guys made that decision. And don't get mad at me for your mistake.
Yeah.
So sometimes navigating that is really hard because everyone's protective and paranoid, and agents only want a certain tale told, and teams only want a certain tale told for that represents the organization well. So it really is hard to find a balance. I spend more time trying to iron out relationships than I do actually working on them now, because someone's always going to be upset. Yeah. Especially the type of stories I write about. They're not all transactional. They're usually a little bit more, here's what I'm hearing and here's the effect of it. And that's always going to get people upset.
Yeah. Causal, emotional, narrative wise. There's so many things going on in the league. And listen, we could chat all day about this, but I want to leave with, you know, when somebody is watching this or listening to this who might want to break into this industry, might look at you and say, Dianna Russini, somebody born in the Bronx, grew up in Jersey, I see myself in her. Yeah. How do I do that? What piece of advice would you give to that younger generation?
I would say to just be relentless. I think when I look back at the times where I really took a step forward, I always was uncomfortable. I was always uncomfortable and just kept going. I didn't let anyone stop me. I remember cold calling Bill Parcells. Like, I'd never met the man.
Yeah.
And I just cold called him. First, now I laugh, like, what was I doing? But now he's a mentor of mine.
That unshakable confidence of like, this is a good idea. Can I come visit you in DC? No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, Parcells hung up on me. He later eventually called me back and apologized because he didn't realize that I was just looking for some guidance. And now he's somebody I can call right now and he'll answer because he realizes I'm just trying to be good at what I do.
Right.
And the thing I did right along the way was I just never quit.
Yeah.
If you just don't quit, even if you feel like maybe it's not working out for you or you're not the best at it, if you just keep believing yourself, people around you start believing. And sometimes that can really help take you to the next place that you want to be.
Lead NFL insider for The Athletic, Dianna Russini. Thank you so much for taking the time on Her Playbook today.
Thank you so much. Love being here.
Pleasure.